Malam. So, selamat Arabic for peace. Malam.
Malam.
Evening, night.
Selamat Idul Fitri.
Idul Fitri is a phrase. Eid, festival. Really so it's a fusion of the nominative ending with the definite article, I think.
Fitri. Fitri.
Don't recognize that. But for the name of the festival, happy Eid. Idul Fitri. Let's look that up. What is the Fitr? Fitri. Idul. Idul Fitr. Which comes from... Alright. Better to do. Tab, the religious celebration at the end of Ramadan on the first day of the 10th month of the Muslim lunar calendar. And Fatara. Fatara. Those would all be dark ahs, I think. Do you agree, Levi? Is that your understanding? Sure. Let's get that shadow. So I think the where are we? Wiktionary. The here, fa would color both the surrounding ahs. I don't think it'd be fatara. And R does the R coloring, does the A coloring too. Fatara, to break a fast. Oh. Fitr. So the festival of the breaking of the fast is the meaning. The root meaning behind Idul Fitri.
Terima kasih, salam.
Terima kasih is thank you. Salam and greetings.
Terima. Salam.
Thank you, greetings. Salam.
Kasih.
Give.
Terima.
Accept.
Kasih. Terima.
Looking at the meanings of the pieces.
Kasih.
Selamat malam, salam.
Selamat malam, salam.
Selamat.
Selamat is the abstract noun. Salam.
Malam, salam.
A greeting form for peace, or just a different noun form. Selamat is a feminine noun. We can tell from the suffix. This one I don't know the gender, so they could just be cognate words of Arabic. Selamat. As far as Indonesian, they're separate words, but when you look at the structure of what they're borrowed from, in Semitic languages, Arabic and Hebrew being the most well-known to English users, so in the English-speaking world, the most well-known. They have their verbal roots are shown by generally a combination of three consonants. The vowels in between will change. It's the identity of the consonants that signals the word, identifies it. So selamat and salam.
Terima kasih, sampai jumpa lagi.
Terima kasih.
Terima.
Sampai jumpa lagi. Sampai, let's listen for those clusters.
Terima kasih, sampai jumpa lagi.
So my impression is that they both sound voiceless, those P's, that the CVC sort of syllable, or actually really the two-syllable word. Okay, the language is Indonesian. The ideal word form for most verbs and nouns seems to be something like this. Any of the C's can, the consonant, C for consonant, V for vowel. Vowels, a, I, u, e, o, those guys, and consonant is basically all the other sounds in languages. Their distribution in any given language is not random, it's governed by rules. Rules have exceptions sometimes, but they are, well, do they have any explanatory power? They're just descriptive, primarily. To describe the patterns we see in a language. Terima.
Terima.
Terima. 3 syllables, last one open, so a bit longer than this template. I think this is sort of the ideal for all lexical words in Indonesian. Kasih has it. Now we get sampai jumpa. So either that's a closed
Sampai.
sam and jum in those words, or the MP is a single consonant, like we see in Guarani, see and hear. Guarani has prenasalized, and so does Swahili. Terima kasih is thank you. Sampai jumpa lagi.
Sampai.
Until we meet, sampai jumpa, and lagi.
Lagi.
Again. Lagi again. It's got some of the same letters as
Lagi.
there. Okay, lagi.
Jumpa.
Is the...
Sampai.
I think sampai will be the preposition.
Jumpa.
It could be taken from another language, I suppose. Until we meet again. A bit harder, you say? Good afternoon, until we meet again. Selamat for the afternoon. Mala, something like that. No, that was
Selamat.
sore.
Sore.
Sore sounds long in the open syllable. And dan.
Dan.
Until sampai jumpa lagi.
Sampai. Jumpa.
Sampai jumpa.
Lagi.
Sounds like closed syllables to me. Thank you very much. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih.
Terima. Banyak. Okay, very much. Like bahut starts with a B. That's the Hindi word for very much. Thank you very much. Terima
kasih. Banyak.
Banyak. So here I'm inclined to think nya, ny is a single sound. So it's open syllable ba, second closed syllable nyak, conforming to the template. But it could be ban, a closed syllable, yak. So this one up here that I've written down, that's the main one for nouns and verbs, content words. We do see other patterns though. Maybe I'll use small ones because they're minor type. CV, CVC also exists. Sampai. They're the I. Is it part of the vowel or is it a consonant? Yeah, don't I? Welcome back to Language Institute. I'm your VerbAlly. We started with a bit of Indonesian just now. At languageinstitute.com here, our homepage. You can register for classes with us, on-site and online. I'll show you what we offer. English, Korean, Spanish, Chinese, French, German, Japanese, Portuguese, Italian. I teach a bit of English, and aside from that, Chinese, Japanese, German, and French. These four are mine, there in the middle. And here on Duolingo, what I'm trying to do by sharing this is to show you how you would go about learning a language without using a grammar book. Suppose you were in a place where they spoke a language you didn't know, and all you had was examples of speech around you. Now, this is a really idealized version of that activity because we've got meanings clearly shown to us, even if we have to guess and work hard for them. They do tell us definitely what they are, so you'd have to work a lot harder, but it's about how do you go about figuring out what the rules are. So I look up words and sometimes phrases on this great resource, Wiktionary. But some of the languages I've studied a long time and even lived in, sort of. You live in a language. I will use this online dictionary, which covers dozens of languages, to look up the origins and meanings and sometimes grammatical info. And they have these nice hints options on Duolingo, but I'm generally not using those. Not here to discourage that. I just want to show you how we do something that we call field methods in linguistics, making up your own grammar. Let's go to Vietnamese. So I don't mean making up your language with that. You're given a language and your task is to understand what the rules are. So that goes for every level of language system, from the smallest speech sound, which you can't break down any further, or you can, from speech sounds all the way up till sentences and longer bits of discourse. All of it is governed by rules. And The structures are built certain ways and not others. Languages aren't just random scatterings of sound, ever.
Sở thú,
Elephant.
mèo,
Meow for cat, good name for it.
Chó.
Jaw, the open O. Jaw.
sở thú,
Thú.
Chó.
mèo,
Male. These accent marks are telling us the tone, which is distinctive in Vietnamese, and they really depict the basic idea. Chaw is an upward accent, tells us tone rises. Listen for that.
Chó.
Cha, we start on one pitch and we swing upward as the vowel is being sounded, whereas here,
mèo,
meow is a falling motion.
sở thú,
Thú.
Chó. Mèo.
Oh, it's zoo. Okay, not elephant. Meow.
chó,
Thú.
sở thú,
Thú.
con chó,
Con chó. This is the animal classifier, and that's word for dog. We will translate the dog. Rough approximation. It probably doesn't mean everything that the means and vice versa, but we need to be aware that there's this class of words in Vietnamese. Classifiers or measure words. I like to think of them as unit words because of how they're used with numbers. Here we see it used without a number with the noun, doing some kind of work. We also encounter chaw, or just animal nouns without the classifier. And the classifier gives it sort of information about what type of a thing we're talking about, what class of things the noun belongs to.
sở thú,
Thú.
chó, mèo,
Meow. English has things that are like classifiers. In constructions like a cup of tea, the cup is counting the amount, in some rough fashion. But really, I think an even closer analogy is things that only have a singular, things like an iota, a scintilla of evidence, a shred. Those sound like regular nouns that we use for counting things, but they're never more than one. We never talk about 2 scintillas or 2 iotas or anything greater than 1. So those have a syntactic peculiarity, and it seems to be related to this. It's a very small class of words. It seems to be related to classifiers in some level to me.
động vật,
But okay, this is Levi. Do you recognize it? Here's an English 2 slice, drop, volume. Indeed, yeah. Levi's thought of some English counting words. So slice, a slice. You can have it as a noun on its own, but it's used for counting things like how much, quantity of watermelon or cake. You count them in slices. You can also count cakes, and you can count watermelons. So liquid is a good thing. Then we've got drop, right? So a drop of water, a drop of beer. Those we can count, right? 1, 2, 3 slices, 1, 2, 3 drops. Volumes for books, right? Okay, Levi, question. What is
động vật,
Dong Vet? This is borrowed from Chinese. Oh, there's a bit of a lag, so let me take a sip.
động vật, động vật,
Here, the subscript, the little dot underneath, that's the tone mark. The umbrella-shaped accents tell us about the vowel quality.
động vật,
Dong Vet. And the D, the barred through one, that is an implosive voice stop. We're sucking the air into the mouth.
động vật,
Dong Vet. Do you recognize this, Levi? It means animal or the animal. The capital letter is often for the first of the word, but since there's no classifier,
động,
I'm inclined to say animal. Either. And I wonder if it would be con with this word, or if it's something else. Dong Vet is, let me just use my Changjie input, which breaks characters down into 24 basic components, mapping them to the keyboard. So, dong, Dong. That one is written as HG. So you go to this website and you just type these keys that you see me inputting. You can generate or retrieve these characters. It's a real simple, low-tech way to do it. And then for the right side, KS, and VUT is an HQ. The nice thing about this graphic thing is that it's not dependent on. Sorry for not knowing. That's okay. But it has the cow. Lo and behold, I have just input the cow. Here, HQ, this figure. But it has the cow. Don't have a cow, man. Probably before your time. Simpsons reference. HQ does indeed have a cow, man. PHH.
Động vật.
Paste it anywhere. We're just getting it to look at it. It means moving thing. So this is a
Động.
word. That's what we would call Sino-Vietnamese, which isn't a language. It refers to a classes of words that Vietnamese has taken from the prestigious neighbor, Chinese. Oh, here we can paste it though. Not that. Let's get that. Oh no. Can I edit forward? Undo. Undid a lot there. That's still going to be. Save. So Vietnamese. There. Dong Vat means animal. And it's a compound word. So Sino-Vietnamese means part of modern Vietnamese language. The origin is Sino, here, this combining form, refers to China, Chinese. So this has an original Chinese compound underlying it. It's written with these characters. And until a few generations ago, Vietnamese was regularly still written with Chinese and native characters. This compound type now, it means move. So I'll use for the pieces on their own. Animal, being, thing. A move thing. The way we get to the animal meaning is it is a thing that moves, a subtype of thing. And an English compound of this type is turntable, a table that turns. It builds up the meaning of the compound from its components in this same way. Turntable. Put them on separate lines here. So the second component is the head noun. It is an animal is a kind of thing, and what characterizes it is its movement. Now, Chinese is in its forms here just ambiguous or maybe indifferent to whether something is a verb or a noun. Most things will be both at different times.
Họ thích động vật.
Ha.
Họ thích. Họ thích động vật. Động vật.
Okay, so let's compare the Chinese and Japanese, Korean we know. Okay, let's add them. Other readings in other Sino-Zenic forms. We have Korean, just a parenthetical here. 동물. And in Japanese, I'm going to write OU, that's a long O sound. 도부츠. And of course, we shouldn't leave out Mandarin. Both falling tone. These forms here all are cousins in some way to this dongvet. So we've got a V coming from the old lenited M of Middle Chinese. And this, I don't know what it means. I don't know teak. I just know that animal is going to be the object of the verb. They like. So I know, just because what I've seen about Vietnamese word order, that it's subject and then verb. Not going to be the other way around. Ha is interesting because it's just one syllable, but plural meaning. The other plural pronouns are these two syllables. Oh, hi. Same characters in Japanese, yeah. Welcome to my channel. Program says zoo, made with that Sino-Vietnamese base. 동물 1, yeah, with a suffix. So this is good. Great question. Korean there for zoo. Let's do a bit of Korean later on, is 동물원, which is a compound of a compound. So let me put the two inner ones together, and then we're adding one, which means a yard, a garden. And there's a couple nearly homophonous, or nearly synonymous one syllable. So I'm just going to check on this to make sure that I'm getting the right one. One. I think it's the right enclosure garden. One. And Naver is a really great resource for Korean. Naver, Korean search engine. Okay, here are the hanja. Let's make them nice and big. So this inner part, that moving thing, to that is added garden. So animal garden, basically, here. So, if you know German, it's closely comparable there. For a zoo, yeah. Moving thing park, yeah, very nice. Huh. Park is cool too because it's a common Korean name. Moving thing park. And yeah, so the inner part are the first two there. Moving thing. To that small compound is added park. Sounds like Jurassic Park or something.
Đó là một con mèo.
Đó là một con mèo. Một
Con
Number one, the animal classifier.
mèo là
We don't just say one and then cat. We need this classifier intervening. Da is probably a pointing word. La is to be. That is a cat.
đó.
Da sounds like German da, which means there. That is a cat. That's going to be just useful for me to hang on to the meaning of the word, not suggesting that German and Vietnamese are related. The cat drinks milk. So whenever Duolingo uses the in English, it wants with the class.
Con mèo.
Let me just use the keyboard. Con mèo. Uống is drink. Milk. Sữa. It's U-O-N-G. Con mèo falling. Uống sữa. He likes the zoo's teak, and he is anh I. Even the singular pronouns are more than one syllable often. Okay, here's how it is. Teak. The zoo. Động vật. Động vật. Oh no, this was a different word, unconnected to Chinese. For the zoo, it was like ga ti or something. Saw tu. So true. Thank you. Wow, I try to hold. Oh, hey. No, thought I recognized something. It's the emoji and not a picture. Yeah, it helps me remember things. I can easily find them later the next time I come around with a language. And just look for patterns and stuff. Always recommend taking notes. Speaking of learning methods, over the past decade or so, making these little half 3x5 flashcards has been invaluable. Writing the thing out, first of all, is a great help to remembering it. And then just seeing it as many times as you need to until it sticks. It's very direct and doesn't use a lot of electricity. Okay, and here we are moving on to, I think, Korean next. Let me know what you're most interested in. I will fast track those languages. I'm here to do a broad whirlwind tour of all the languages that are on offer. Did I pass it? Must have been. been a while since we did Korean. About time. Valuable and invaluable at the same... Roughly. You can't always substitute them. Like, I couldn't say invaluable with very. That's very invaluable. But another pair where they are apparently interchangeable, you might know, is flammable, flannelable, capable of wearing flannel, and inflammable. This in is the preposition, into flames. Not the negative prefix, it looks like. But invaluable means like it's to me, to my mind, is like inestimable. It's impossible to truly appreciate it. It's so uninflammable. Thank you. 감사합니다. 안녕하세요. 한국어를 let's see, how do we say let's study? Let's just say 배워요. Let's learn. 공부해요. Food is our topic that we're starting with.
저는 그릇을 던지지 않습니다. 저는 그릇을 던지지 않습니다.
그릇을 is new to me, or I've forgotten it, dropped from my mind. 그 is the pointing word, the middle one, not too far away. That, 그릇, so 그릇, 던지, is that throwing? 않습니다. We have this nice negative root. Okay, Korean is already there. So here, this isn't how revised romanization does it. Anta. So putting these brackets to mark the special status here. We write an NH cluster in this highlighted syllable.
않습니다.
You won't hear the H directly, but it will affect
않습니다.
neighboring sounds. So, anta is a negative verb, negative root, meaning not to do something. Whatever, not do blank, whatever it occurs with. What it comes from is an, the negative prefix, fusing onto hada, and then that has lost its vowel. So I don't mean equals to say what's on the left is the same as, it's just a different kind of attachment. From hada, here we have a suffix onto a root, giving a word form of a verb. The an exists still as the negator in Korean, and it's written as a separate word, so I will treat it so, but we have a special fused one, where the middle vowel could drop out, and that's how you end up with this anta. What else is like that? There's one or two others. Oh, you know another one. I don't know if I've told you about, Levi. 많다, to be many, means being... This is from Sino-Korean. This is the Chinese 10,000 word. To be myriad would be the greatest, most elegant gloss here. To be many in number, like a huge amount, but it means 10,000. Both man and myriad. Comes from man hada. Hada is really kind of in between doing and being. Don't think that's correct, actually. Which part? So there's a lag. So I'm not sure what you're referring to. Either it flams or it doesn't. I haven't heard that. That's good. Flammable too. Peuja. That's what it is. Thank you so much. The ja suffix. 네. Either okay. Manta, chota. The chota has that same aspiration. It could be from hada, I suppose. But I don't know what you gain there. Could be. It's really kind of suspicious to have an NH cluster in a coda there. It
않습니다.
still does aspirate those.
않습니다.
All right, let's find out what
그릇을.
Okay, so probably not the pointing word, just part of that stem. Doesn't look terribly
그릇을.
bowly at first glance, but maybe the shiot
그릇을.
showing the boundary between two bowls. We're looking at a space on either side. We've got a left bowl and a right bowl. 그릇을. That's marked as object. I, bowl, do not do...
던지지.
던지지. So tonji, that's the root, and the ji is a nominalizer in a negative context, which we have here.
않습니다.
Otherwise, we'd use a gi suffix, and it means It's going to be a long lesson, but that's fine. There's so much to learn and to talk about. Exactly, man. Nihongo mo, man. And do we have a Japanese verb be numerous that's built on man? So we have like oi to be many, but clearly not related to that linguistically. Man, that's the simplified kanji. The full form, alright, I need to refresh. For 10,000, the traditional hanja. It's like original gangsta traditional hanja. To my eye, just by far the more beautiful. TWLB will be how we write it. This is wan in Mandarin, man in both Korean and Japanese, and also banzai. So the simplification will be written as MS. And what this simplified form really comes from is a swastika. I forget which direction, but it's a Chinese style rounding off of an Indian design. Actually teaches us a bit about the history, the development of Chinese characters. Well, they were equated. This one goes back to old Chinese writing, of course. Another case of equation like that. Let's see, is this going to tell us which direction the swastika? Probably whatever you call that one that has the same corner. Let's do some Korean. I've written one word in this whole unit so far. I do not throw bowls.
아침이 맛있습니다.
아침이 subject, morning, 맛있습니다. So literally it looks like the morning is delicious, but it means breakfast. Nanzen. Thousands. Oh, how nice. I'm not familiar with that nanzen. Close to nonsense. Jisho is a really, really wonderful resource if you're not familiar with it. You can input whatever is handy. Kanji, kana, romaji, any of it. Many thousands. Zen. Is delicious.
저는 그 남자에게서 접시를 받아요. 저는 그 남자에게서 접시를 받아요. 접시를.
Oh, plate. 접시. Okay, it's got a
접시를.
little plate in the P up there. 받아요, we know. 저는, okay. One thing I recommend if you're new to decoding Korean sentences, hold that thought. Overflowing closet full of t-shirts, you would say t-shirts 만장이야. Oh, I haven't heard that. 만장. Jang is the counter word for t-shirts. Thank you. That was my next question. Very nice. Make it a little bit more line of sighty. Okay. So what I recommend to decode, if you're overwhelmed, don't know where to begin at the end. Because that's where we find the verb. 받아요, somebody receives.
저는.
Beginning we have I get. Present tense, non-past. 접시를, a plate, and then extra information from 그 남자.
남자에게서.
So these three syllables there at the end, those are the case marking part. We could view it as a chain of up to two or three suffixes, or a single unit. I don't really know what's the best option there. From that man, I got a plate. I get 받아요. A plate from that man. This pada roots in patta is interesting. It's one of the few ones that
받아요.
keeps the tigit without changing it to a real in that position. Between
받아요. 접시.
접시, plate. 접. There you are.
접시.
For the little tray.
저녁,
저녁 means that woman. 녁. Oh no, this means dinner or evening, I believe. Dinner.
반찬,
반찬.
저는 점심을 안 먹어요.
If you're new to Korean writing, it's one of the most wonderful systems of writing in the world. It combines the elegance of syllabic blocks that you have in Korean and that you have in Japanese and Chinese as well, with the logic of an alphabet consisting of vowel and consonant symbols. So 저는
저는
and
점심을
점심, they start with the same sound and the same consonant letter. It's symmetrical shape there. Yeah, could talk for days about writing Korean. It's so elegant. 저는 점심. Oh, this is that Chinese
점심을
点心 for lunch, which we have dim sum. 을 object 안 먹어요. Okay, I topic eat 안 먹어요. Do not eat 점심을. I do not eat lunch.
오늘 저는 반찬만 먹어요.
오늘 저는 반찬만 먹어요. The final particle man on the side dish word. Look at this nice sequence of final nians followed by kiok. So the L-shaped consonants in these blocks, that's N, and then at the bottom of that one, it's at the bottom because it's last in the syllable. They're written top to bottom and read that way.
오늘 저는 반찬만 먹어요.
Today I eat a side dish. Or I eat side dishes. I only, the man, yeah. Nothing but. This man could be a fusion of a negative ma. Only dabbled far enough into Korean many years ago to be able to read Hangul easily. Understand what it was I had read. Well, if you're not already a user of Duolingo, I highly recommend it. It's for the low cost of free. You can do it. Take a placement test to start with. And you just get lots of repetition, so it makes the learning and retaining of vocab much easier than if you have to somehow cram it in your brain yourself. And it keeps you motivated by being real breezy and manageable and convenient too. You just have this nice tool in your pocket whenever, or on your laptop, whatever device.
식사.
And of course, we have an excellent Korean teacher here at Lango. I encourage you to look into studying with us. Just go to our langoinstitute.com homepage here. We've got, we teach private lessons that are not on the schedule, just whenever you're ready to start. Yeah. Okay. Japanese and German. Well, those sound like invitations. We can do some of those. Which would you be more interested in there? J-A. I grew up for 10 years in Germany. It wasn't my very first language, but I speak it natively or nearly so. And lived for a year in Japan, picked up some of that. And on Duolingo, as you may know already, I say it all the time, I'm trying to do them all, everything that's available.
식사.
Shiksa is a meal.
학생이 빨리 저녁을 요리해요.
학생이
학생이 빨리 저녁을 요리해요.
저녁을 요리해요. Okay, wasn't catching that.
학생이 빨리 저녁을 요리해요.
요리해요. So these speakers, or this speech generator, has more of a
요리해요.
Instead of yo, there's a yo.
학생이 빨리 저녁을 요리해요.
But not in yori, not yauri. Interesting. 학생이, the subject marked, student, the student quickly. 저녁을, the dinner, cooks. Verb's always last. The student cooks dinner quickly.
아침.
아침. Maybe German. Okay, since there's some, yeah. German's got a lot going on in the grammar department. I'm happy to go on about that. I think if I hadn't grown up speaking German, I would be forever intimidated by it because it's just such a horrendous system with those articles and adjective agreement. A lot to unpack there. 아침 is the morning or breakfast. Morning or morning meal.
그릇에 무엇이 있어요?
그릇에 무엇이 있어요. So this is very unlike the European languages I'm familiar with. This kind of construction is very common. It's the only one that's there in the big three East Asian languages, CJK. To express existence or location, we have existential verbs. 있어요. X exists in a place. First, the place is named here, in the bowl, in at bowl. 무엇 means what thing, and marked as
무엇이.
So a really cool thing that makes Korean much simpler to parse, to sort of see what's what in your sentence, is that instead of the varying ways that cases are marked in all the German noun classes, you have two forms. This one, I or ga, is always going to be there on a subject. A always on this locative, other meanings too. Ul or rul for a rul, not trilled. Ul, rul for direct object. And then you can use those as little signposts to find your way through the sentence. Much harder in an inflected Indo-European language to identify what case everything is, which you need to know to understand it. So, its existence in a bowl of what? What is in the bowl? What's in the bowl? Come on, man.
점심,
Lunch word.
접시.
접시 is a plate. Nice pair.
빵은 반찬입니까?
빵은 for bread comes through Japanese. Oh, it looks like a little sliced loaf of bread, really.
빵은.
Imaginatively look at it. 반찬입니까? This verb ida is quite interesting. It's written without gap onto its complement. To be
반찬입니까?
side dish question form. Is bread a side dish is the question.
이 그릇은 커요.
그릇은 커요. An intransitive state of verb. 이 means this. 그릇 is the bowl, and 은 after it, written onto it, is a topic marker. That's what this sentence in this discourse is about. This bowl, and the verb means to be big. You don't need a separate be. It's not an adjective with a verb, but a single adjectival verb. Japanese grammar is so much easier than German, yeah, for the same reason, I think. So it'd be nice to have it explained. That's what I'm here to do. I can't get enough of languages and grammar. I'm endlessly fascinated and want to share what I've managed to understand myself with the world. That's what this channel is dedicated to. And I might also direct your attention to our blog and our podcast. Lango is really all about making language learning accessible, easy, and fun, and bringing the knowledge that knowledge and the tools that linguists have to language learners. So just langoinstitute.com/blog. We've got a few dozen posts or so, most directed at particular languages, and some are kind of overviews across various languages. I've written a few of them, and I've got, let's see, maybe 5 to 8 other authors on there. Levi, do you know? Yeah, let's try to do German and Japanese. We're already 3 in. I should be plugged in here. Alright, let us wrap this one up. Oh, almost there.
아침이 맛있습니다.
아침이 맛있습니다. And that's why I'm always asking what languages people want to see. I don't want to do stuff that nobody has any connection to or interest in. 아침이 맛있습니다. The breakfast, oh, this was the one I hit enter too soon, is 습니다, is delicious. This is really existential too. We're saying flavor, 맛, 있습니다, is present, but fused, incorporated into the verb. All right, German, we said, is coming next. DE for Deutsch. All right, how solid do you feel about the cases and their basic functions? I have a little spiel I can give. Please don't ever hesitate to say I don't understand something, or I don't know, I don't get it. I'm here to explain it. That's the purpose. Stats on many authors on the... Okay. Yeah, Levi is represented there too. Some real thought-provoking pieces. So I think it's near the bottom. No, we did that Germanic-themed one. So my takeaway from our first or second all-Germania stream was that you should never do or it's inadvisable to do both Swedish and Norwegian on the same day or in the same session. I was having a lot of trouble keeping them apart. Baby mode, you got it. Yeah, excellent. Yeah, the more explained, the better. Of course, at a certain point, you're trying to explain everything. And everything really does need, in a language, when you're teaching and learning a language, it bears repeating lots of explanations because it's such a huge picture on so many levels. All right, I'm just going to rewrite a new one if I can't find what I'm looking for. All right, we're doing German. Just a quick overview of cases. So cases, we have these labels, these names for the forms, right? Those case names, and let's talk. Those are associated with functions, but let's keep them distinct in our mind with this little chart here. Nominative, nom for short. Its main function is that of the subject of a verb, the doer of a thing, doer and the beer. Let's make it beer, not the drink beer. A door, a beer. Accusative, ACC for short, primarily used for a direct object of a verb. Entity affected, entity most affected by an action. Let's zoom out a bit. Dative, these are the nominal cases where the resulting form is still a true noun. Dative is used primarily for indirect objects, person to whom a thing is given, shown, explained, etc. Person to whom, I'll say for short. So now just a touch. And then we also have this case called the genitive. Genitive, there was at an older stage of German more of a genitive object, but what a genitive lets you do is to modify a noun with like a possessor or something. So it's on a different level in some sense. This is according to the Sanskrit grammatical tradition. They regarded the genitive as kind of its own thing, but since it has its own forms that work the same way the forms of these cases do, we group them together. So, we're still really early on in the German course. I'm trying to cover as much ground.
Hallo, ich bin Julia.
The articles you know. Okay. Adjective and... yeah. Explain... I'm asked to explain the adjective endings. I can list them for you. Actually, I can give kind of an explanation in terms of how that situation came about historically, but it's a really complex topic. Let me just give a quick overview of what's going on, what the issue is. No. It's a lot of forms too, because there's many combinations of, or many genders, 4 cases, 2 numbers, singular, plural. So let me just briefly outline it. We have to, when we've got in a noun phrase an article and an adjective with the noun, their forms are like sensitive to each other. So, nominative case. Let's do an example that is masculine, singular, something real simple. Ein guter Mann. Der gute Mann. All of the examples are going to be masculine and singular. This one is indefinite, a good man. Der gute Mann is the good man. Let's keep that there. Accusative. Den guten Mann. Definite. That's what that is. Wrong place. The indefinite is going to be einen guten Mann. And the definite, den guten Mann. Let me just highlight the relevant bit here. Versus the. This is the difference. In English, it has no effect on what good does. Good only exists in the forms good, better, best. That's it. And well, I suppose, could be regarded as a form of good. Dative, einem guten Manne. The final E optionally. So we do need another tab here. Einem guten Mann. Yeah, this one is generally dropped in modern German, but underlyingly still important that we know it's there. Dem Guten Manne. And then genitive, eines guten Mannes. Des guten Mannes. Which, so in this case with guten, actually, it's not too bad because these all have en on the adjective. You just have to remember the endings on the article. But it's not just this one gender, and it's not just this one class of nouns. There's dozens of inflection types. They're getting more and more similar through time. Gendered sentence structures are where I really got stuck. Yeah, I kept forming sentences wrong based on my incomplete understanding of the rules. English very good. Excellent. All levels welcome here. Might need a nap. Well, please don't go just yet. Or, oh, let me mention, if you do decide you need a map, I'm archiving these streams on our Lango Institute Duolingo channel. And look for this hashtag, all the languages. You can see all that we've done, and you can search by that and then whatever language you're looking for. So search hashtag all the languages and then hashtag German, and you'll see all that I've done there. You'll have to skip around within the video itself, but you'll find it. And then come and see us again. I try to stream about every day, 5 to 6 times a week. Hallo, ich bin Julia. Okay, we're still on square one. So this is sort of the sketch of the problem. You've got all these endings competing in your brain. You're never sure what's what. On some level, you have to just memorize it. But we can look for patterns here and there to make the memorizing a little easier and more fun. So hello is hello. I, bin, am, Julia. I could type that would help.
Ich bin Hans.
Ich bin Hans. Same story, different name. I am Hans. From the name John, Johannes.
Heißt Karl.
We have this new letter to English users. This one looks kind of like a B. It's called SZ, and the symbol comes from a fusion of long S and a Z, so it was a S maybe at one time. His name, he is called, we could say, for heißt. It's not a transitive verb. Look at that. Ich lerne Deutsch. Ich bin Rika. Hallo Rika. Willkommen. Willkommen bei Lango. He is called Karl. Karl, that's our name Charles. They're related words.
Ich bin Hans.
Ich bin.
Ich bin Hans.
So bin is one of the most exceptional verbs there in German in terms of its form. The infinitive is sein. Ich bin, du bist, ist. No other verb inflects quite like it.
Ich heiße Karl.
I am called. Heißen, so it's not transitive, but it does have an X noun before it and a Y noun after it. I have to say it's still intransitive, it just has this
Karl.
That's needed there. To say ich heiße is an incomplete sentence. And called Karl. Okay, and note
Heiße. Ich heiße Karl.
how the R is pronounced, depending on whether it's before a vowel or after it. After a vowel sound, it really becomes a vowel itself. Karl. There's no r there. We don't say Karl.
Ich heiße Karl.
Karl. It's just a modification of the vowel.
Ich heiße Julia.
Julia. Ich heiße Julia. He is called. So is he.
Heißt
You see this agreement suffix T for he, she. Subject. Heißt Karl.
Karl.
Karl. I am Hans. Ich
bin. Julia.
Close.
Hans.
The only mistakes I make here are incredibly simple, easy to avoid ones. I get it wrong genuinely sometimes too. Let's do a bit more. See a bit more of the action. Has to be similar to wa. Well, in a very broad kind of sense, yes. But wa of Japanese is not a verb. It's a very well-defined thing, a class of verbs in Japanese. They take verb suffixes and they come at the end of the clause. Wa is in the class of what are called particles, which just means noun phrase final signals, sort of signposts in your sentence, telling you what a noun phrase, what function it's fulfilling. And wa marks a topic, particle sense, like particle physics. And wa, yeah, it's really untranslatable, kind of hard for English speakers to get at first, but it's something kind of beyond a subject. It's a really looser attachment of a noun to its sentence. It can be any part of the sentence sort of picked out and emphasized by being designated as what the discourse is going to be about for the next stretch. And Korean has that un and nun, which works the same way. I always thought of the German R as being similar to British, yeah, silent in the coda. Coda means the tail end of a syllable after the vowel. It is quite similar in your standard prestigious varieties, the BBC sort of English. The ah is lost. That's a good example. Oh, that's where they get that linking R. The drawing room, and so on. Okay, Germany.
Deutschland.
So note that EU, those letters give an oi sound.
Ich komme aus Deutschland.
Ich komme aus Deutschland. I come, simple present for a generally true statement. Not that I am coming from there at this moment of speaking, from Germany.
Deutschland.
The form aus is related to our word out. But we wouldn't say I come out of Germany.
Kommst du aus Frankreich?
Straight out of Germany. Do you come? And here an important difference.
Kommst.
Really, this one sets English apart from the rest of the family. Watch that Germania stream. I talk about inversion a lot. To signal a yes-no question in this family of languages, you violate the normal word order, which is subject-verb, to the opposite. You say kommst du, verb, subject. And we do it still, but we do it only with do and a small set of verbs. We don't say come you from France, but do you come. This is the one that's inflected, and come is an infinitive. Do you come from France? Frankreich is a compound of the Franks.
Frankreich.
That stem there, and then Reich is the empire. Empire of Franks.
Kommst du aus Deutschland?
Kommst du aus Deutschland? Fast recognize.
Ich komme aus England.
I come from, or we can say I am from in English. But we couldn't say in German, ich bin aus. Ich bin aus Italien or whatever. Is coda. It is related to Italian. Yeah, it's ultimately from Latin. Cauda, coda. Coda from music. That's right. It means the tail section of a song. And in linguistics, we talk about a coda for a consonant at the end of a syllable, the tail of the syllable. Coda was Latin for lating, Latin for tail. That's the metaphor. So the tail of the syllable is its final consonant, one or more than one. England has a coda cluster. The first syllable has the coda eng. The opposite end we call the onset, an English word. And then in the middle is the vowel, which works as the nucleus, we call it, to make your sandwich of a syllable. And in almost all languages, most of them, your consonants, they can be there or not, but what makes a syllable possible is its nuclear vowel. I'm from England. And note how they say England with the eh.
Ich komme aus England.
They also don't have that hard G in a sequence like this. It's England with no gl like we have England. Maybe some speakers will say England. A lot of Italian words in music terminology. Yeah, they had the most admired in Europe, the Italians did, musical culture, late Middle Ages into the Renaissance. Renaissance also starting from Italy. And so they had like naming rights, is one way to think of it. Everybody was learning the Italian ways for many, many centuries, and we still continue their naming traditions.
Sie kommt aus England. Sie kommt aus England.
Devoicing is another important thing for German pronunciation. We write it with a D, and if we have a suffix after it, like Englishman, Engländer, it'll still sound like a D. But if there's no consonant, and this one is in a coda, after vowel, not directly, after this vowel here in this case, with no vowel directly following, it becomes voiceless. We say England.
Sie kommt aus England.
It's true of all b, d, g at the end of a word. Gonna devoice. Same here, Deutschland. Anna and Lukas come from Germany.
Anna und Lukas kommen
This is really intransitive, this verb, but it just specifies its
aus
purpose with a preposition and its phrase.
Deutschland. Sie kommt aus England.
Word order is just the same. It literally comes out of England. England, Engländer, exactly right. Yeah, and you can predict which it'll be by asking the question, is there a vowel directly following? In the second one, Engländer, well, thank you, pro gamer, rather. Yes, that happens, I think, in Russian too, either just the same or pretty similarly. A lot of languages have devoicing. What else can you think of, Levi, where a stop will devoice like that? Korean, it happens. That's what I come here to do, is just talk about language. How come ananas never made it into English? Pineapple instead. That's a great question. The question is, how come ananas, this word for pineapple in many languages, never made it to English? Yeah, I don't know how you could definitively answer it. It's just kind of a bit of historical accident, you could say. And they show, we say pineapple for it instead. Where did that word come from? So it shows two ways that speakers of languages, people, deal with naming new things to them. At some point, this new fruit was introduced, I think from South America. Apple used to mean any fruit. It's pine cone shaped, Levi tells us the means. Yeah, as far as the linguistics of it is concerned, when a new thing comes along like that, either a product of another culture or just a living thing from another part of the world, you either take the name from the same channel through which the thing came to you, or you make up a new word in already existing roots. Those are the two main ways, I suppose. Apple of the earth, that's right. So the potato is what we call a New World plant, came from the Americas, was introduced to Europe after Columbus. We took the word batata, modified it to our speech habits into potato, or tater. But standard French uses pomme de terre, apple of the earth. So you either bring in the new word into your language. It happens in most, if not all languages, at least some of the time. In this case, it's not what English did. We coined our own new phrase from it. Phrase or compound, rather. Pineapple. Two independent words stuck together as a new independent word, as a compound. All right, we've done a bit of German. We can come back to it in a bit, but let's get to Japanese too. Send me your requests before fatigue sets in and I can't do language good no more. Japanese. One of my favorite to just do for fun, because it's so intricate with its writing system. I've spent many, many years studying Japanese. Don't think that I got as knowledgeable as I am with just a few months on Duolingo, and get frustrated because of that. I lived in Japan for a little over a year, 12, 13 years ago. Taught English there, and I've kind of kept up with it. I haven't assiduously been studying Japanese ever since, but I got a good working knowledge of it when I lived in Japan. Let me get a keyboard ready here. Just start typing Japanese. I might already have one open. So this particular one, just the basic Japanese one from Lexilogos, you write lowercase for hiragana, uppercase for katakana, and a few other little tricks and such. And then this input method is my favorite one for getting Chinese characters, called kanji in this context, which means Chinese characters. Just trilingual, end up bilingual. I hope not. I love that. I love trilingual. I think Lisa's gonna like that too. It's gonna be a hit at Lango, I might predict. Trilingual. Thank you. Ricochet. Always looking for great portmanteaus. That's this class of word where it's not quite like a compound, because we haven't stuck. Lingual isn't really a word. It's coined sort of in reference to the word trilingual with an I here, meaning speaking 3 languages, and it substitutes a new first component. Nailed it. And like I said, here at this stage I'm trying to cover as much ground rather than going after particular topics for too long. Once I've unlocked everything, then we can focus more on particular topics.
在宅
Zai.
在宅
Zaitaku. One thing to be mindful of when you're studying is the accent patterns of Japanese words. It's not generally indicated in writing. In certain materials it is. But you basically have high-toned versus low-toned syllables. There's a two-way distinction, 0 and 1. There's no third option.
在宅
Zaitaku. And in the standard dialect that's taught, there's always a change in tone from syllable 1 to syllable 2.
在宅
Here's an upstep after za. Zaitaku sounds like it stays high. Means dwelling.
あなたのご主人の名前は何ですか？
あなたのご主人の名前は何ですか？
あなたの
This here, ending in wa, is the topic, what the sentence is about. And it's good to read it, decode it backwards. The name, namae, of your husband, of you, of the husband of you. The comment part of the sentence, what is it? Well, we put the question word first in this type of sentence. What is your husband? That word order is the same, English and Japanese. First the possessor, then the possessed. Husband. And that too is a possessor. What is his name? So the double possessive here, your husband's name, is mirrored with these no particles.
在宅
Zaitaku,
在宅
residence, dwelling.
あなたの奥さんの名前は何ですか？
あなたの奥さんの名前は何ですか? What the pattern is the same as that last one we looked at. What is your wife's name? Okusan. This oku, I think, refers to like an inner chamber of a house.
本田さんはご在宅ですか
Gozaitaku desu ka? Oh, okay, it's not a residence. Because here it's used of a person. Is Mr. or Mrs. Honda gozaitaku
ご在宅
at home? Desu ka? Gozaitaku desu ka? Note that it's not iru, it's not imasu ka. Yeah, this goshujin feels really archaic and outmoded, doesn't it? I didn't hear it much. What's the more common for husband now? Is Mr. Honda at home? So this is very interesting. I wasn't really familiar with this gozaitaku so much. Haven't seen it before. And it's talking about location. We're saying where he is. We might expect we would use iru, imas, but we've got a form of des with the copula. Is he such that he is a home dweller at the moment? Zaitaku.
在宅
Mago.
孫
Step. Shujin.
主人
Shujin. Down step. Okusan.
奥さん
Okusan. Musume.
娘
Musume. So it's low, high, high. Zaitaku.
在宅
Zaitaku.
奥さんはご在宅ですか？
Okusan wa topic. Gozaitaku desu ka? Is the wife, is your wife at home? Instead of Dana-san or other forms. Huh. I'm not familiar with that either. So, don't know how it's read right offhand. In Japanese there's many options, but I can input it here directly. So again, this is that link I put there in the chat. Sanji input is a graphic lookup. AM to write the first one. The second, it'll be SQ for the left, NL. So with that, I don't need to know the reading to find it. Just identify its components in this particular system. Okay, Jisho for Japanese. Danna, master of a house, husband. Danna. What else means husband? So thank you for that. It's kind of a cool one. Shujin, head of the household. If we go by kanji meaning, that's right, master person. What if head of the house is grandma? Indeed. I'm sure many people know the answer to that, but I myself do not. Danna. Otto, Otto-san. Otto-san, father, husband. Okay. Otto-san has a secondary meaning of husband. Muko, husband or groom or son-in-law. Goshujin, teishu. Fusai, husband and wife. Fufu, which Korean also has. Pubu. Zaitaku,
在宅、
okusan,
奥さん、
musume,
娘、
tsuma,
妻、
tsuma for wife, shujin.
主人。ご主人はご在宅ですか？
So these go prefixes are what we call honorific to show a bit more respect. Maybe to the thing itself, or definitely to the person you're talking to. More polite to have o or go on certain nouns. Is your husband? Gozaitaku desu ka? Is he at home?
彼女のご主人は誰ですか？
Goshujin wa dare desu ka? So what I like to do to input is first get the kanji that I'm going to need. I'm going to windows here. In this lookup method,
彼女のご主人は誰ですか？
Ho, just inch up a little higher. DHE, and then V writes onna, jo. Goshujin wa, shu is YG, and then jin, O is one of the basic elements. So the woman and the person, just single letter ones.
彼女のご主人は誰ですか？
Shujin wa dare, we have a kanji for YROG, who. So the words I've looked up, she, husband, and who are written with Chinese characters, and the rest put in phonetically. Kanojo no goshujin wa. So we got particles no and wa, and this go is a prefix, which is different from a particle. Dare desu ka. So a two-step process to type it. It's just more fun than using the word bank, I think.
本田さんの奥さんは誰ですか？
Occasionally I meet kanji whose breakdown I don't quite understand. That's always fun.
本田さんの奥さんは誰ですか？
Who is, again, question. Honda-san no okusan. Mr. Honda's wife.
彼女のご主人は誰ですか？
Kanojo no goshujin wa dare desu ka? Was the one I input. Who is her husband?
おばあさんはおいくつですか？
おはよう、おじいさん。
Hayo, good morning. The root of that is hayai, to be early or to be fast. Oji-san is grandfather. Oji-san, oba-san, for the two generations above you. Oji-san with short vowel, oba-san for aunt and uncle.
祖父は100歳です。
Another word for grandfather, more this taken from Chinese, the ancestor father. Topic wa 100歳です. We had a monarch or monarch's consort who nearly made it.
祖父は100歳です。
Sofu wa, the grandfather, is 100 years old. My grandfather. Oh, okay.
おはよう、おじいさん。
Phonetically, ohayo. U to write the long vowel. Ohayo. Oji-san. Asa. Ohayo, oji-san.
おばあさんはお元気ですか？
So those go honorific prefixes. Here we've got double o on grandmother, oba-san. Ogenki, healthy. Is grandma well?
祖母は85歳です。祖母は85歳です。
Oh, yeah. For the ancestral mother, my grandmother. 85歳 is 85 years old. So desu, ohayo, exactly. If you don't understand how to break down a kanji, I thought you can just type X. Not quite. Interesting. X doesn't just mean help me, but it's for things that, it's for a well-defined set of kanji where the breakdown would be really, really complex. For instance, the diminutive suffix child, right? You know what? This is another great resource. I'm going to write it by hand. We can just, but let me do it on the big screen. So, X, okay, 1、2、3、4、5、6、7. This kanji. In CJ, it's a little bit hard to break down. You could do it. It would take a lot of steps and kind of be doubtful as to what order you should do it in. So what CJ does in cases like that, there's maybe a couple dozen components that are input using the X key. Is we specify the first strokes, the downward slash, they're in blue or blue-green here. It's symbolized by H. Then we put an X for the rest of the top part, right? For this bit. It takes care of all that. So we don't have to worry about it. And then we just write the legs, another H, and the right leg is a U shape. There we go. 日本語で私の名前は Okay, would it be Rico? Oh, you said it earlier. Rico, right? Where was it? With kanji, it's never completely certain. Rika. Yeah, ka, that's right. Ka first, yeah, for the smelling one. Very nice kanji you've got there for it. Ri makes me think of jasmine. It's got grass on top, so T, and then H, D, and then we skip one and do the final N. Let's see what this is all used for. Wiktionary for this kind of thing. Phenomenal resource. Tells you about every language this character is used in. We've got 4 here, plus the translingual, the sort of overview. Li, used only in muali, which means jasmine. In Japanese, means a pear, or white jasmine. White jasmine and fragrant. Very nice name. Yoroshiku onegaishimasu. Hai, yoroshiku onegaishimasu. Yokoso. So some other X ones. The body, shenti the shen, also starts with an X, with an H, with the downward slash. Then comes a bunch, and we end it on X. This character for body, shin. I don't know how it's all read in Japanese. Would be a pain to break down into the 24 keys. So you just look at the first and the last, and everything else. Help me for that. For this specific form and several others. Okay, another case is the YX set. Chi. Y on top, and the rest is a little hard to parse because it's not a moon shape at the bottom. It's open on top, right? Gives me li. Yeah, li xiang. 对. Fourth tone, first tone. There. So have you started? Looks like you started learning Mandarin too, if you know that. So you know the tones. The falling fourth, and then xiang is high level first tone. For these kanji, again, T, HDN. Xiang will be HD, also A. Those characters have that shared he component. HD writes that. That's in common. I only took a tiny bit of time in Mandarin. Very interesting. Yeah. Well, the nice thing about either Chinese or Japanese or both is that if you can make progress learning those, then no other language will ever intimidate you. Those two, each in their own way, have the hardest writing systems that are now used, I believe, from what I've seen.
大阪のおばさんはお元気ですか？
大阪のおばさん、おばさん aunt with a short vowel.
お元気ですか？
She's the type.
は
Genki desu ka? Is she well? So it's not the aunt of Osaka, but I will say, how is your aunt who is in Osaka? She is somehow associated with that place.
東京のおじさんはお元気ですか？
Your uncle, Oji-san. How is your uncle? He is pertaining to Tokyo. Tokyo no Oji-san wa genki desu ka? How is your uncle Tokyo? Okay, musuko.
息子
The su, which is voiceless, would be high-toned. We know from that rule. Well, if we believe the rule, that 1 and 2 have to differ. Musume,
娘
mago,
孫
shujin,
主人
sobo,
祖母
sobo, down step, sobo. They have different names for these tone patterns. If it's high on the first, that's called atamadaka, which means head high, which could be a bahurihi. Osaka ni ikitai desu yo. Watashi wa itta koto ga nai n desu yo.
おはようおばあさん
Ohayo oba-san. Good morning, grandmother. Musuko would be musuko.
息子
Me.
娘
Note that musuko, the son, is written with 2. Musume, clearly parallel compound, is written with just 1 kanji. A bit of unpredictability there in Japanese. Let me start a new section. Alright, meaning daughter. The word is musume. This musu doesn't occur on its own, but it's in both these words. Son. Musuko. Me basically means woman, while ko means child, so that's kind of asymmetrical there. But this one, 2 characters, and 1 for the daughter. Shujin.
主人
Sofu.
祖父
Sobo.
祖母
祖父は78歳です。
祖父は78歳です。My grandfather is 78歳 is 78.
彼はジョンさんのおじさんです。
彼は topic he is John さんのおじさん is John's uncle.
おじいさんはお元気ですか？
じいさんはお元気ですか? How is your grandfather? Is he well?
おばあさんはおいくつですか？
Can be improved with time. So one thing to watch out for your Japanese ears. One thing to listen for, aside from the accent, which we talked about, is voiceless vowels. Okay, real quickly, what voicing refers to is buzzing caused here in the throat, with the vocal folds held together in such a way that they do this sort of trumpet lip thing. For vowels, it's generally voiced, and if you touch there, you'll feel the buzzing. If you plug your ears, your whole head will vibrate. That is voicing. D and G and B, those consonants have it, while P, T, K, they don't. Okay, and in Japanese, we find voiceless vowels. The rule is the 2 vowels E and U, if they're after a voiceless consonant, consonant, and not followed by a voiced one, voiced sound, it could be anything, vowel or consonant or whatever, then these vowels will devoice. So in mu, su, ko, the u in the middle drops out because it's between S and K. Right, this stretch of the word. We look at a vowel E or U. To remember when this happens, we just follow this rule, kind of. We have an U, we've got a S voiceless to the left, and a K voiceless to the right. So, it is after a voiceless consonant, condition 1. It is not followed by a voice sound. It's followed by voiceless. There we're going to devoice, and we don't really hear the U clearly anymore. Musko. Yeah, exactly. Skosh. We get, English has this. In English slang, we say a skosh. Some speakers do, to mean a little amount. It comes from Japanese. Skoshi, where the first and last vowel have devoiced. Great example, great illustration. Rickshaw, too. Jinrikisha. The E after the K is dropped out in sound. For those who don't know, it's a cart that is powered by human labor. We have this word rickshaw, kind of a shortening from Japanese. Jin, human. Riki, power. Sha, vehicle. Human, power, vehicle. So this one, this E is between K and Sha. A voiceless environment, it devoices. Oba-san wa oikutsu desu ka? So this one is new to me the other day when I saw ikutsu means how many. If we add the honorific to it, oikutsu, how many honorable years? So, Oba-san, how old is your grandmother? In English, we don't have different styles of asking for age depending on the person's age range. We would ask the same way for a child or a grown-up or an old person. But in many East Asian languages, that will vary depending on how much respect you have to show the person.
おはよう、おばさん。
So, good morning. Oba-san is the aunt. Good morning, aunt. Aunt or aunt. Regional variation.
祖母は101歳です。
祖母は101歳です. It's a very instructive compound because we skip a spot. There's no tens in this number. The meaning is my grandma is 101 years old.
おばさん、おはようございます。
Programmer says, Mekudo na rodo. Is Hangul for the Japanese saying of an English word? Okay, I haven't seen that. It would be, I think, McDonald, Donald, or Donal. Duolingo uses that name in its Korean course at some point. That's interesting. So that would be a borrowing from the English, which is really an Irish or Scottish name, McDonald, through Japanese, which wouldn't be the only case. So we've got, or the only thing like that. Pang for bread comes ultimately from a Romance language, but through Japanese. Arubaitu, that one may be terebijan. What else is there? The arubaitu, I don't know. The tu makes me think they got it directly from German instead of Japanese. Arubaito. What else is there? Where you can clearly see that it was a Japanese model. Nice emoji there too. Yep, so certain words really, really like to cross language boundaries. They're very happily borrowed from language to language. Okay is a big one, our English expression, meaning all correct. Okay. That was one that was used all over the place in Mandarin. Didn't hear it much in Japanese, but it's covered a lot of ground in the century or so of its existing. Oba-san, ohayou gozaimasu. Good morning, a little bit more formal way of saying it. And
おはよう、おじさん。
Ohayou. Good morning. Oji-san, uncle.
おじいさんはおいくつですか？
Honorable age again. Oji-san wa, how old is your grandfather?
祖父は100歳です。
Sofu wa 100歳です. Bang in Korean is the same sound we use. Oh, in Khmer. Nombang. That's really good. I wish I could hear you pronounce it for us. I know nothing about Khmer except it has one of the largest alphabets for writing it, if not the largest. What does the nom part mean? Or where else do you have this word? Yeah, it's maybe a little confusing. I'm reading it on this device. My camera's here. You always get a nice view of this side of my head when I do that. Sofua, my grandfather. So different words for my grandfather versus someone else's. Here's sofu for one's own, speaker's own grandfather. Shakusai desu is 100 years old.
東京のおじさんはお元気ですか
Tokyo no oji-san wa o genki desu ka? How is your uncle in Tokyo, the eastern capital? And note that there's called a minimal pair, a really close, phonetically close set of contrasting words in Korean. There's pang with a plain B, pang, right? Single P up, where it's slightly aspirated, pang, versus the tense double B or double P, bang, bang, where it's held a bit longer and there's no aspiration on it. This one on top means the room of a house, and bang with the double letter is bread. So revised romanization, we'll write for this one. That's the currently used standard one for writing it in Roman letters. RR uses double P, P-P-A-N-G. Bang means bread. And it tends to have so stiff voice quality and a higher pitch on the vowel is my impression than the pang, which is the unmarked one. Let's do a bit more German. Maybe Korean again. Yeah. I don't like to plan too much ahead. I just like to take requests and then bounce back and forth. I wish we were further along in German. Should have tested out.
Sie verstehen.
Sie. This one could be interpreted two ways. It can't mean she understands. Let's look at the word sie though. Without anything else for context, sie, especially if it's capitalized, can mean three things. It could be she, singular pronoun, or it could be they. These two will also be lowercase, but if it's uppercase in the middle of a sentence, you know it means you formal. It's inflected like the they pronoun, this you meaning. But anyway, just the word sie can have three senses. We look at the verb
Verstehen.
with the en written suffix, so we just hear the n of that. It can only be they or you. It won't be she here in this case, so I'm going to put you understand. These verbs don't line up exactly, but they both have the same root, the verb of standing there, with Indo-European sta. In English gets an nd, stehen, without the prefix. In German also would mean to stand, and fa is a prefix that modifies the verbal sense in various ways. No single meaning attachable to it.
Die Frau spricht.
Frau spricht, from the verb sprechen with that vowel change. The woman speaks.
Sie verstehen.
Sie verstehen. You understand. Sie verstehen. Sie. And note that so we saw the final D becoming a T sound, devoicing. A single letter S in the onset of a syllable is going to be Z, voiced in German. Bang specifically refers to, hard to explain in English. Nom is basically what we use for different types of dough goods. Cookies, cakes, breads, some types of noodle dishes. Marvelous. Looks like a classifier too. I don't know if you're here yet for that, but we did Vietnamese, where you have these things that will combine with a numeral or either show definiteness or some other feature. And it tells you what type of an object or thing you're dealing with. Bang refers specifically to bread. For example, when we refer to Chinese bao, we call it nom bao. Yeah. Or it could be a noun, and those are just compounds. Nom bao, nom bang. It's interesting that those are so similar, because bao, of course, comes from Vietnam's north, China, and the other one comes from Europe. Ending up side by side in Khmer, looking very similar, different just in one sound.
Spricht Deutsch.
Again, sprechen with as the main
Spricht.
one. Yeah, spricht with the mutated one. Deutsch, since it's a noun, the name of the language, going to be capitalized. As an adjective, though, Deutsch will be a lowercase. Die deutsche Sprache, we would just capitalize Sprache. He speaks German.
Wir verstehen Englisch.
We understand English. Word orders exactly the same. Those parallel verbs. We and wir, those are related forms. You can see the closeness of the relation of these two languages by the many similar forms, and also the parallel word order a lot of the time.
Wir sprechen Englisch.
Sprechen. Note that it's not really an N in these final syllables. They're unstressed and the vowel weakens.
Wir sprechen Englisch.
With a single sound, L-lish. English, with a three-part cluster in the middle. Nom would be a noun. You can eat nom. Nom nom nom. Sounds good. So, to my mind then, those things you mentioned, nom bao and nom bang, would be compound words with the head noun first, which is not the usual English order, though we do have a few. Surgeon general, a type of surgeon. Nom bao, a type of nom. So not a classifier, but a noun. That's good to know. We worked that out quite quickly. She understands English. Okay, verstehen doesn't do that vowel mutation that you see with sprechen. Single verb stem throughout the whole set of verbs. Sie versteht. The H here is not a consonant. It tells you to lengthen the vowel. Sie versteht English. It was never sounded as a H, to my knowledge. And SCH for that last consonant. Do you speak German? Let's use the Sie form. Sprechen Sie. Inversion, because it's a yes-no question. Deutsch. Capitalize, because it's a noun. Or sprichst du Deutsch? Yay, we get some food just in time. Die Suppe. We write an S, but it's Z sounding.
Die Suppe.
Final vowel.
Das Essen.
Essen. We go straight from the S into the N.
Das Essen.
Not Essen.
Der Fisch.
Okay, the little word here looks kind of like a classifier. The ones spelled with D, those are articles. They mean the, and they also tell us the gender and the case and number of the thing. Die, feminine. Das, neuter. Der, masculine. Those are just arbitrary labels. There are nouns that refer to male people that are feminine or neuter. Those exist. And so on for all things you could name. I think I got it. I let a few bugs in the house today. Not thinking.
Die Suppe.
Suppe is soup.
Der Fisch.
Das Essen.
Das Essen. Without das, essen can be a verb, to eat. When you turn it into a noun, it means food, the thing eaten.
Es ist ein Fisch.
Es ist ein Fisch. It is a fish. Es ist ein Fisch.
Die Suppe. Eine Pizza, bitte.
Eine. This E here at the end
Pizza. Eine.
tells us it's feminine. Levi, I was thinking yesterday, can you have a German word that starts with an S sound? Well, if it's a loan word, you can. Here's one. Let me just type it on screen. This one has a voiceless initial. There may be some others. Probably, I mean, if you had a proper name. Maybe, like from French, you could probably get some that had an initial voiceless. Good question. Those labels are what confuse me, because how you form the sentence will change depending on that. Right. Yeah, the labels, they're designed to be helpful so we can refer to the thing without having to name a form each time. Let's see. Well, let me just talk about it. Name it whenever we see gender marking. It's tough to really fully explain. It's kind of mysterious to me, the whole topic of noun classes. It really does a bit of the work of classifiers in other languages. Just gender systems have a smaller set. So this German system of gender has 3 members, masculine, feminine, neuter, just labels for them. But they refer to types of inflection, that they identify which form of a suffix you'll see in a particular case. Now, to understand the system, you always have to be able to sort a given noun in context into one of its four cases. A noun in German is only going to be one of those four cases. It can't be outside of those cases. So what is it here? From the form alone, it could be nominative, subject case, or it could be accusative. Eine Pizza bitte. When we say this, it means a pizza, please. We're asking that the thing be given to us. So I know, as a native speaker of German, that this is an accusative form. If I was asking for a masculine thing, an apple, I would say einen Apfel bitte, and not ein Apfel bitte. Because the apple is not going to be the subject of my sentence. It's the thing that I'm wanting to own and then to consume. Object.
Du isst Eis.
Du isst means you eat, you are eating. Ice means ice cream. It also means ice, the frozen water. That's not something one would normally eat.
Das Mädchen hat Hunger.
Hunger, this is the same as our noun hunger. We in English will express this with the adjective, say hungry. The girl is hungry. Let's look at the grammar of the gender and stuff. Das Mädchen. So it means girl. This is an excellent case of how the label misleads. A girl is a feminine creature, a human being, but the word for girl is neuter. All German nouns with this chen suffix are neuter gender. By the way, Levi, what do you think about that? Isn't that odd that a suffix would govern a thing's gender? Maybe there's more to it. I think Japanese uses ice too. Oh, maybe they do. Ice cream, I know they use, at least like officially. Aisu, I could see them doing that. They love to drop off the endings. Japanese, so borrowings into Japanese tend to become quite long, and so they love to shorten these things like terebi for the television, konbini for convenience store. I would not be shocked. Ice cream for the full compound. Kurimu, this says, meaning either cream or ice cream. Aisu, so either part can mean ice cream. From English ice, from German ice. Good. That's really cool. To say ice cream, you can use either aisu, kurimu, or both together. According to this dictionary. It's maybe not always true. Pasokon. Noto pasokon. Hai. Lots of compounds that we ourselves do not have in English. Pasokon comes from personal computer. Classic example. It's so lovely. All right. Okay, so case and gender. Das Mädchen. Neuter, as we just saw, from
Das.
Das is only neuter, never any other gender. And it's singular, and it's the nominative. The verb is agreeing with
Mädchen.
subject. Hunger, der Hunger. No article is with it. It's a masculine noun. It's got to be accusative because it's the object. It's the thing that is had. So, right, I can just throw the string of labels on there, but let me just type.
Hunger. Das.
Take it in with our eyes too. Helps us, I think, get the structure sometimes. The girl has hunger. I'm going to tag the grammatical info, phrase by phrase. This first one, das Mädchen, nominative, because it's the subject, singular, one entity, and neuter is the gender. Just because that's what the noun is. Not saying a girl is a neuter thing rather than feminine, just a noun class. Hunger, this is accusative, it's singular, never plural, this noun, and it's masculine. As a native speaker, you just know this, all this information, and you can always extract it from the context, which form it is. A lot of them look alike. Das Mädchen,
Das.
these
Mädchen. Das.
could be either nominative or accusative. So to really master the system, just ask yourself, which combination is it every time you see it? Well, maybe not every single one, but get in the habit of asking and answering the question. What case, what number, what gender? And look at the endings. The das is the only thing that's explicitly there. There's no suffixes here or here. Okay. Let's see another example. He is eating the food. Er, this pronoun, is the nominative form. Not that strange. Many suffixes are like that. Schafft, heit, kite, I'll make the gender of the noun, and the last word is a comp. Last word in a compound does too. Exactly. Good point about... I'm going to extend that point to these components that you named too. Schafft doesn't occur on its own. Neither does Kite, neither does They are only suffixes. But I think in the hien ones, we're looking at what used to be compounds. I think that hien, the diminutive suffix, a small one, is related to the noun kind, with weakening of the initial and simplification of the cluster. Maybe it never had the D, I don't know, but that's my take on it. So das Kind, that's a neuter noun. So it's a sort of weakened compound, these hien derivatives. Ist, this verb gets a double S instead of is, and the food. Das Essen, no, sorry, it's this noun phrase now. Das Essen, it's accusative, singular, neuter. The neuter part isn't going to change for a given noun. It's just inherently one. The number of it depends just how many you're talking about, basically. This one also never pluralizes, though. We don't have die Essen. In the case, we can tell from a combination of the form itself and what it's doing in the sentence. We can triangulate. That is good. This sentence, the components are only in one case, the nominative, because it's not a transitive verb. Das means that, and they correspond exactly. They go back to the same ancestor. In fact, all three of these words are. The German and English words are closely parallel because they go back to the same thing a couple thousand years ago. Das ist gut. Das war gut. Hien equals z. It's my theory. I need to do some more reading on it. I have resources right here. I just haven't gotten around to it. Diminutive suffix deriving word for child. Not only z, Chinese also uses for the same purpose. Child of such and such. Also means child. HXHU. Z and D. Yeah, they're used to show. They were at one time maybe marking a small such and such in Chinese. Now they're just for any noun, more or less. But for something like, what's a z? Kuaizi, the chopsticks, were fast children. Dianzi, electron. Let's do another Japanese before we call it in. Yeah, so like I said, come here usually once a day, occasional day off, and more in the evenings. Haven't really set up a schedule yet, but I like starting about 9 or so-ish. Go for an hour or two. Here to just talk about language, to take in the beauty and to share the wonder with everybody else who's interested.
じゃあ、行ってきます。
I especially like just comparing across language, similar related phenomena, language A, language B, and so on. Looking for patterns, not just within, but across languages is also endlessly fascinating to me.
じゃあ、行ってきます。
It's a nice sequence of verbs. Having gone, itte, kimasu, will come. I guess well by, we say, well then I'm leaving, gets it across. Hard to really say literally. Ittekimasu is one of those 1,000 times a day utterances in Japanese.
ただいま
I'm home. I'm back. Just now is the literal meaning.
行ってらっしゃい。
Irashai. Please come back.
行ってらっしゃい。
Here, see you later.
おかえりなさい、お父さん。
Kaeri nasai, oto-san. Welcome home. Oto-san, father.
彼女は父親に似ていません。
Nite imasen. This is nice. This verb means to resemble. And the ni is attached to the standard of comparison.
彼女は父親に似ていません。
Chichioya, father dear. My father, her father. She, topic, unto her father, might say, for this ni, unto.
に似て
The ni really isn't part of the verb, it belongs to the noun phrase. This root is also pronounced ni, te is the gerund form, imasen. She is not resembling unto him, would be a really close match of the Japanese. Oh yeah, thank you very much for coming. Please come and see us again. It's really nice having someone who could tell us about Khmer. I hope to learn Khmer. Anyone else? The three of us here. はい。彼女は父親に似ていません. She does not look like her dad. She is not resembling him. Dada. In some cases, Japanese uses a progressive combo, two words, where English cannot, or where it sounds odd in English, like with knowing.
おかえりなさい、お父さん。
Let's write that all phonetically. おかえり。おかえりなさい、お父さん。おかえりなさい、お父さん。
彼女は母親に似ています。
彼女は母親に似ています。She looks like, resembles her mother. 在宅、
在宅、
息子、
息子、
奥さん、
奥さん、
似て、
似て、
娘。
娘、
And that 似る漢字 will be O. V. I. O. There it is. In Chinese, read as 是 or 是。
いってらっしゃい、お父さん。
いってらっしゃい、お父さん。Take care. Come back later. Father.
お母さん、行ってきます。
お母さん。Mom, I'm going. Be back later.
行ってきます。
That's good.
おかえりなさい。
お帰りなさい。Welcome home.
お母さん、ただいま。
お母さん。ただいま。I'm home.
おかえりなさい、お母さん。
おかえりなさい。お母さん。
お母さん。
おかえりなさい。Welcome home. Mom.
行ってきます。
行ってきます。I'm off.
彼は父親に似ています。
彼は父親に似ています。As for him, he looks like his dad.
ただいま、お姉さん。
お姉さん、ただいま。That's what you say when you're coming back. I'm home. お姉さん、older sister.
じゃあ、行ってきます。
じゃあ、well, 行ってきます。I'm off. What else did we even do today? We did Vietnamese and Korean. Let's do a little bit more Korean. Long stream. Or, Levi, any requests? Anybody else who's watching? What would you most like to observe, listen to, and watch? And hear me babble about? Pop.
パー、
커피,
Coffee.
우유.
Uyu milk.
パー。
우유가 비싸요.
Sayo is... I can never remember which way it goes. Pisa is expensive, right?
비싸요.
Uyuga, subject mark, the milk, is expensive. Soup.
커피, 맥주,
Ju.
수프.
So, except for, yeah, these two, coffee, make soup, from English or from another, likely European language. Coffee, kahva, ultimately from Turkish, I think, or Arabic.
와인,
What?
우유,
You from Chinese.
주스. 수프는 맛없습니다.
Soup, that's our topic. The soup. 맛없습니다.
수프는 맛없습니다.
Yeah, I never thought to ask before, but the shiot voices to a D here. Yeah, okay. Levi says, I think we should do some Esperanto. Yeah, okay, good call. Good reason too. 맛 없습니다 will be 맛없습니다. Good taste is absent. Soup tastes bad. Or isn't tasty, we could say.
커피,
Aspirated coffee. Beer, 맥주.
맥주,
접시에 밥이 있습니다.
접시에 밥이 있습니다. Decoded backwards, there exists in a place rice in a bowl. Say the rice is in a or the bowl.
저는 와인과 커피를 마십니다.
저는 와인과 커피를 마십니다. I was trying to think of that. 마시다. Earlier. I drink 마시다. 마십니다. 마십니다. Wine and coffee.
어디에 기름이 있습니까?
어디에 기름이 있습니까? 기름 is a drawing. 어디에? Where? Oil. What am I thinking of? 그림. With the vowel switched. 기름. Oil. I'm not familiar with that one. Looks like a native word to my eye. So, naver. See if there's any, will tell us if there's any kanji for it. Oil, grease, fat, lard. And Wiktionary often will tell us the source. So for the oil word, first detected as kilum, attested in Middle Korean, 1447.
기름,
Kirum, that word, oil. Ki, spelled with a G. And now this one that we spell EU, is a high central vowel, right? Kirum, yeah, I think they're 3 degrees of frontness. Space to convert the syllable.
어느 와인이 비쌉니까?
어느 와인이 비쌉니까? 어느 which wine?
어느,
비쌉니까? Which wine is expensive? And this E marking the subject. 와인이
저는 집에서 맥주를 마셔요.
저는 집에서 맥주를 마셔요. I drink, the final verb. 집에서, at home, beer. I drink beer at home. Cool.
저는 아침에 밥을 먹어요.
저는 아침에 밥을 먹어요. I eat rice for breakfast. Tough.
커피는 맛없어요.
Coffee는, as for the topic there, as for coffee, 맛없어요. Doesn't taste good. I want to say isn't.
동물이 사과 주스를 마셔요.
The 동물 word here in Korean for animal, the moving thing. 동물이 사과 주스를, okay, compound, apple juice, 마셔요. The animal, 동물이 subject, 사과 주스를 object, drinks apple juice.
접시에 밥이 있습니다.
접시에 밥이 있습니다. Rice is in a place. Rice is 접시에, on a plate.
어디에 기름이 있습니까?
어디에 기름이 있습니까? And this word meant what? Where is the
기름이,
Oh, you know what? If I write 기름, I'm just looking for a way to remember this word. I found a weird one. Like the politeness suffix ends in a long ah. You need to ah. Yeah, good call. They seem to be modifying those final vowels, the yo and the yao. Who knows what's underlying there? But yeah, maybe it's kind of stylistic, conveying some sort of flavor. Good representation too, switching from Tigut to the ash. Very nice. Spell it Tigut ash. Okay, looking at kirim for oil. One of my weird mnemonics. Okay. So here's the written word, kirim. If I turn it upside, I turn it 180, I've got O-I-L. Sorta. See if that sticks. Before long, I'll be looking at this word again, trying to recall, if I've seen it, what it means. Then I'll smack myself in the forehead. And then once I've smacked my forehead enough times, I will remember it. Due to pain to forehead. Where's the... Okay, and I think last language for today will be Esperanto, which is a made-up one that has since become a real living spoken language. There we go, right to it. Way to go. Okay, I have acquired this gold not by hard work, but by just testing out there. It does these cracks to get you to refresh something, review. But I just want to cover a lot of ground to see as much varied stuff as I can. Adverb. So the main adverb ending is an A, letter E, and I think there's also an L. Is there an L adverb marker?
Vi povas aĉeti la alian seĝon.
Vi povas aĉeti la alian seĝon.
Vi povas aĉeti la alian seĝon.
Sure what seĝo is. Povas aĉeti. Alia, I think, is other. Sedge. Huh. Sedilla. Or silla, rather. Sejon. What's the most likely inspiration for that? V, I always think of we, but it's vu. You plural. Povas, present. Can. Aceti, infinitive. Buy. So Esperanto is a really great language for an intro to linguistics class. You can look at those endings, isolate them, and they just a single invariant suffix has a single grammatical meaning attached to it. It's ideal. European languages, it's all a mess, more or less. Spanish is relatively clean in that regard, but even there, very rich. You can buy the other chair. La means the. The adjective alian tells me it's the object form, the accusative. The other. Sejon. So o for the noun, and a suffix for articles and adjectives. You can buy the other chair.
Mi deziras paroli Esperanton flue.
Flue, lovely. Mi deziras paroli Esperanton flue. Let's look at the structure there. I have my own sort of shorthand. Okay, no special characters. Let me put it up here with my conventions. These types of brackets go around noun phrases because they're like bricks in the syntax. This bracket is shaped like a V, so I use it for verb phrases, maybe adjective ones too. And I use these curly ones for prepositional phrases to be extended perhaps in future. Okay, now in Esperanto we have this lovely sentence. Mi means I or me. Desiras. Desir, wanting to or desire. It's the stem, and as the suffix. Paroli. Parlare. Parola. Probably Italian, because we still have that O. Esperanton. Esperant is the stem. O for the noun. So I guess that would be the stem. I mean, suffix. N is a grammatical inflection suffix. Flue, adverb. And as far as phrases, me is a noun phrase. Our subject, I. Verb phrase is the rest of it. Want to speak Esperanto fluently. So Esperanton is a noun phrase. Paroli Esperanton is a smaller verbal kernel in here, so I'm going to mark that too. Mi deziras paroli Esperanton flue. I would like to, want to, speak Esperanto fluently.
Vi povas aĉeti la alian seĝon.
Vi povas,
accetti,
we can buy la
la,
alian seĝan, the other chair.
Pro manko de mono, mi apenaŭ povas vojaĝi.
Mono. Pro manco de mono, mi apenaŭ povas vojaĝi. We
mi,
almost, hardly vojaĝi. So, pro maybe because of?
Pro.
Yeah, for lack of money. So French has the verb manquer, to lack something. Here a noun, manco, which has quite a different meaning in Japanese, which I will not utter. Mono looks like the mono alone component, but it's moneta, money, coin. Mi apenaŭ, I hardly. I'm hardly able. Say I can hardly travel. Voyagi. And again, infinitive shown by I. The inflected one has a tense marker, as.
voyagi, povas,
So there's no inflection for person, no agreement, but there is tense marking.
Mi amas ŝin malgraŭ ĉio.
Single marker tells the tense and nothing else. Mi amas, I love. Shin means his. Malgrau, ĉio. Ĉio, I think, an uncle. Everything. Malgrau. Okay, au is another adverbial ending, in spite of everything. Shin, not his, but him. What would be his? Shinan? Shina? Something. Love him despite everything. Malgrau. So French has malgré for this meaning. Not him, but her. Shin. Lin for him. She, like English and Irish, for feminine.
Ili amas sin, kaj ni amas nin.
They love sin, him, themselves. Kai ni, that's we love ourselves. Reflexives, meaning that the subject and the object are the same entity. These are two independent clauses here. They love, amas, present, themselves. Kai is and, it's from Greek. Ni, we, amas, nin. We love ourselves.
La sandviĉo havas viandon en si.
Viande is French for meat. La sandwicho, so our subject. Havas, has. So English seems to have been the model for that particular form. German has a B in the middle, haben. French and Italian, they don't have that H sound. They write it, but it's not there. There's no sound associated with it. No, actually French doesn't write it. Italian does. It's a silent letter. Sandwich has viandon, object, meat, NC in itself. There's meat in it.
Tiu malgranda ĉambro estas kvazaŭ vestoŝranko por ni.
Yeah, it is delightful. It's so wonderful how it's sort of, not only is it Coneheadian, downright Frankensteinian, and how the parts are recombined. Malgranda, so this
Malgranda.
Component doesn't mean badly, but just reverses the direction of quality. Tiu is, what's that? Tiu malgrandas chambro. That, is it a pointing word?
Malgranda.
That small room, estas is, what do you make of kvazau, Levi? What do you think that is? Vesto shranko por ni. So, wardrobe for us?
Por.
That, tiu. So I don't know if there's a suffix u that's meaningful. Tiu. You saw me struggle to remember what it is here. How can I do better? What's this? I wonder. Tiu. Malgranda, small. Chambro, like chamber, means a room. Camera. Here the model is probably French. Chambre, with this X crescent.
Chambro.
Kvazau is an adverb. What do you think was the model for it? The origin of kvazau? What language, what word? That small room is estas. I think it means like a closet for us. Wardrobe. Wardrobe is a nice compound to guard the clothes. Pickpocket style. Kvazau. Let me let that simmer for a minute. Kvazau. The spelling is interesting. How did you do for the thing? Just a caret? Yeah. It's a bowl-shaped diacritic, but anything there will help us. Meaning like X. Where does it come from? Comes from question mark.
Ili sin komprenas reciproke.
Sin comprenas reciproca. Reciproque, adverb. So reciprocal, each other, from Latin. But come to think of it, what is the root of reciprocal? I see a re component. No cipric anywhere else. Possibly from a phrase, reciprocus in Latin, possibly from a phrase such as requiproque, back and forth. Wow. Re, back, pro, forwards, que there twice, meaning and. Back as well as forwards. How cool. Reciprocus. That's the neatest thing I've seen all day. Ili sin. So the word order is quite interesting here. I think it's they themselves understand well with the object before the verb, not the usual way. Maybe because it's a pronoun, but it was maybe the Latin qua is there. The Z sound might be Germanic Slavic. Good guess. I think it's modeled on Latin quasi, almost. Quasi, quasi, probably originally. Voices in Italian. And we have this in English too, either quasi or quasi, I've heard for it. Kind of a learned word meaning almost. With the ending replaced in Esperanto, the adverbial au. They understand each other. Maybe sin and reciproque working together. They understand one another. I'm going to say each other first.
Malgraŭ lia opinio, ŝi lernas multe da lingvoj.
Here the syntax is very interesting. In a Germanic language, you got a phrase like this, despite his opinion. This is really cool because it looks just like the Latin nominative. Despite his opinion, you'd have the verb next in German. Trotz seiner Meinung lernt sie. Right, you'd need, because the verb in an inflected main clause goes in position 2. Although I guess English would have the same. Despite his opinion, she is learning. This is his, right?
Lia.
Despite, malgrau. So we could do, I think, word for word, Esperanto to English. Despite his opinion, she is learning multe da lingvoj. So multe is not the object, it's an adverb. She's learning abundantly of languages. Lots of languages. In spite of his opinion, she's learning many. So that's an interesting construction. In my standard average European mind, in a phrase like this, the many, lots word would be a noun ahead of this phrase. Darling. Greatly of the languages.
Kion alian vi bezonas?
Kion alian? What else? What besides? Vi bezonas. Bisogno in Italian. Besoin, French. What else do we need? Not we. Do you need?
Malgraŭ la bona vetero, mi estas tie ĉi.
Malgraŭ la bona vetero, mi estas tie ĉi. I am something this. Tie ĉi here. I am there proximal. I'm here. Despite the good weather. Mi estas tie ĉi. Those two words. I am here. Oh, good question, Levi. Why is it not lingvoin? Multe da ling... Oh, what was it? Lingvoi, right? What was it? In fact, I can't recall. Feel free to retrace or, rewind there in the stream. I dare not.
Ŝi apenaŭ povis fini sian laboron pro manko de tempo.
Apenaŭ, hardly. Povis, this is a future verb? No, past. She was hardly able to finish her own reflexive work, labor, pro manco de tempo, for want of time. She was barely, hardly, able to finish her work for want of time. For lack of.
Pro manko de akvo, ni ne povis kuiri.
So to answer your question, Levi, if it was in fact lingvoi, I can tell you what I think is going on. It wasn't lingvon, was it? That seems really weird. It was multe da lingvoi, right? Pro manco de akvo, water, we ne povis kuiri, we cannot cook. Due to lack of water, we can't cook. Can't swim. Oh, could not. Povis. Yeah, not povas, but povis. Is always there on a past tense verb.
Adamo parolas la francan tre bone, kvazaŭ li estus Franco.
Estus. What's that? A subjunctive? Adamo speaks. Okay, so adjectives with no noun mentioned into the French language. Adam speaks French very well. Tre bone. Quasau li estus Franco. As if he were French, a Frenchman. Adam speaks French very well, as if he were a Frenchman. Quasi, almost. He would be, would be a Frenchman. Franco. So one thing, yeah, that to me feels really weird too. If it's, as I think, multe da lingvoi. I'm going to bracket it because I'm not sure about the ending. Lingvoi. And not lingvoin. Object of a preposition does not take N. I mean the N suffix. Only the object of a verb. So it feels kind of like a wheel is missing in a four-wheeled vehicle. Feels a bit wobbly somehow, the grammar, because of that, but that's just how it was decided to be.
Mi helpis nin reciproke.
You could say there's a special object of a preposition case that looks like the nominative, but isn't. however you want to regard it. Ni helpis, love it. Nin reciproke, adverbially, mutually. Ni we will, no, we helped, past. We helped. Nin reciproke, ours, each other, one another.
Li amas sin.
He amas sin. He loves himself. Shin would be her, but sin is a reflexive pronoun.
Mi havas alian fraton.
I have a different brother. I have another brother. I have another.
Ŝi kapablas flue paroli 6 lingvojn.
Plus. Flue paroli. I love that they've turned this adjective into a verb. Paroli 6 lingvojn. She can speak 6, I'm guessing, languages fluently.
Mi volas aĉeti alian.
Head noun for the object, just another one. I want to buy another. Just like we do in English, we don't have to specify what noun we want another one of. We just use that as a pronoun.
Mi amas ŝin malgraŭ ĉio.
In spite of everything. I love, shin is her. I love her in spite of everything. Chio is one I don't recognize by its origin. Might be Slavic. That's the branch, well, that and Celtic are where I'm weakest in my knowledge of European languages. Why can I not? There we go. From chi, universal correlative prefix, and o. Oh. Ciascuno, Italian. Chaque in French, or English, each. All good. That's interesting. I love the options for the etymology. Chi, each. That's nice. Oh, if it were from each, you'd be derived by reversing. Palindromic derivation or something, inversion. Pretty rare in languages of the world to derive a word that way. But I feel compelled to mention there's an English case of a noun that derives from a backward misspelling of a name. And that is this noun, hoodlum. From what I've read, it comes from the name Muldoon with the N substituted for H, or vice versa, H substituted for N. Spelled backwards. I think it was like a newspaper comic strip or something that was done. It's where the word hoodlum comes from. It's not from any other language of the world, but this Irish name. I believe Irish.
Pro manko de akvo, ni ne povis kuiri.
Listen to how he pronounces the N in manko.
Pro manko de akvo, ni ne povis kuiri.
Do you hear it, Levi?
Pro manko de akvo, ni ne povis kuiri.
It's not an eng. Manko, alveolar N.
Pro manko de akvo, ni ne povis kuiri.
Which is common, I think, in Slavic languages. Polish and Russian, I believe, will say bank and not bank. Pro manko for want of water. Lack of water. Ni ne povis kuiri. Ni being we cannot cook. Could not. Once again.
Pro manko de akvo, ni ne povis kuiri.
Could not cook. Ouch. Okay, on that inauspicious note, we got a crown at least to end on. Thank you very much for watching, and please come and visit us again.